Why is it so hard to escape poverty? That is the title of the TED Ed video we are going to be reacting to today. For a while now, we've been trying to look at some of the problems surrounding the world, and usually you guys don't even see it. Sometimes when we react to these videos, we get pretty heated about them. And then we were like, well, instead of looking at the problems and the complaining that usually takes place, why don't we take a look at some of the solutions that are available that we could react to and see, what's out there.
Let's see what the people have come up with.
Imagine that you've been unemployed and seeking work for months. Government benefit programs have helped you cover rent, utilities, and food, but you're barely getting by. Finally, you hear back about a job application. You receive your first paycheck in months, and things seem to be turning around, but there's a catch. Your new job pays just enough to disqualify you from the benefit programs, and not enough to cover the same costs. To make things worse, you have to pay for transportation to work and childcare while you're at the office. Somehow, you have less money now than when you were unemployed. Economists call this demoralizing situation the welfare trap, one of the many different poverty traps affecting millions of people around the world. Poverty traps are economic and environmental circumstances that reinforce themselves, perpetuating poverty for generations. Some poverty traps are tied to an individual's circumstances, like a lack of access to healthy food or education. Others can affect entire nations, such as cycles of corrupt government or climate change. But the cruel irony of welfare traps in particular is that they stem from the very policies designed to battle poverty. Most societies throughout history employed some strategies to help people in poverty meet basic needs. Before the 20th century, religious groups and private charities often led such initiatives. Today, these are called welfare programs, and they usually take the form of government-provided subsidies for housing, food, energy, and healthcare. Typically, these programs are means-tested, meaning that only people who fall below a certain income level are eligible for benefits. This policy is designed to ensure aid goes to those who need it most, but it also means people lose access as soon as they earn more than the qualification threshold, regardless of whether or not they're financially stable enough to stay there. This vicious cycle is harmful to both those in poverty and those outside of it. Mainstream economic models assume people are rational actors who weigh the cost and benefits of their options and choose the most advantageous path forward. If those in poverty know they'll gain no net benefit from working, they're incentivized to remain on government assistance. Of course, people work for many reasons, including societal norms and personal values. But income is a major incentive to pursuing employment. And when less people take on new jobs, the economy slows down, keeping people in poverty and potentially pushing people on the cusp of poverty over the edge. Some have suggested this feedback loop could be removed by eliminating government assistance programs altogether. But most agree this solution is neither realistic nor humane. So how can we redesign benefits in a way that doesn't penalize people for working? Many countries have tried different ways to circumvent this problem. Some allow people to continue receiving benefits for a given period after finding a job, while others phase out benefits gradually as income increases. These policies still remove some financial incentive to work, but the risk of a welfare trap is lower. Other governments provide benefits like education, childcare, or medical care, equally across all their citizens. One proposed solution takes this idea of universal benefits even further. A universal basic income would provide a fixed benefit to all members of society, regardless of wealth or employment status. This is the only known policy that could entirely remove welfare traps, since any earned wages would supplement the benefit rather than replace it. In fact, by creating a stable income floor below which no one can fall, basic income might prevent people from falling into poverty in the first place. Numerous economists and thinkers have championed this idea since the 18th century. But for now, universal basic income remains largely hypothetical. Although it's been tried in some places on a limited scale, these local experiments don't tell us much about how the policy would play out across an entire nation or a planet. Whatever strategy governments pursue, solving the welfare trap requires respecting people's agency and autonomy. Only by empowering individuals to create long-term change in their lives and communities can we begin to break the cycle of poverty.
Universal basic income. This is something that's been floated about more often, I'd say, in the last 10 years. I think we're moving there. I like the idea of universal basic income, but I already know that, the skeptical out there are going to say, where's the money coming from? How are you going to get that money out there? And so I don't know what you do there because it's going to come out of taxes somehow. But maybe if we evolve the tax cycle to change, I feel like we've almost been brainwashed to accept the trickle-down economics view where wealth kind of funnels up to the top and then eventually comes down to those beneath them. And I think maybe it's time that we start more aggressively, taxing from the very top of the ladder, doing the reverse to kind of equal things out. And then there's a whole bunch of different ways. Everyone has in their own mind an idea of how much is enough to get their feet off the ground, right? There's going to be, as a nation or the world, we would have to decide collectively what is most important to get the wheels turning, to help someone so that they have the option to do what they want with their life, to pursue the things that they actually love doing. And, that would be something that we would have to decide. I feel like some of these social programs, they work better in smaller communities. I think one of the problems with Canada is that our social network is so big, it spans too many people, and Canada's giant. To just say, universal healthcare for everyone. I think the needs are different in city centers versus, a more rural area. They don't need as much, because there's less people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
I don't have too many thoughts on it. I would ask different questions. What do you think everybody thinks? What do you think the popular opinion regarding this is? Popular meaning the most crossover, largest pool demographic, the most common ideas regarding this. What do you think they are?
I think we still live in a world where people don't want universal basic income because they feel that it won't be doled out fairly. I think we've been trained to believe that if you tax from the higher echelon, those who are making the most amount of money, for some reason, they'll just give up doing what they're doing. They won't have the incentive and they'll go somewhere else. They'll go to where they can make their money, and then it will break the capitalistic system that we see. But I feel like the capitalistic system that we're in right now is already starting to fail. A lot of people say we're in late stage capitalism. Mm-hmm. That the system.
So that's a lot of failing. So that's what you think most people would think.
That they're not. I would say most people still would be against the idea of universal basic income.
How receptive do you think people would be to a not common idea? Meaning something that's commonality by definition. Commonality in some sense is not exceptional. It's the non-exception. It's the status quo, really. How receptive do you think people are to something that's outside of the status quo? Something that's potentially exceptional?
Well, I think...
How do people historically treat concepts like that?
Well,
do they adopt everything right away that is an exceptional idea? Or is there such thing as ahead of its time? Is that concept possible, something being ahead of its time? Or do people even care? Do people want truth, or do they want the thing that makes them feel safe, whether it's a delusion or not? What do you think?
I think the latter. I think people want to be made to feel safe first before accepting. I think a lot of times ideas like this, they take a long time. We may just be in the infancy of learning about universal basic income. It might be another 100 years before we get to a place where it's an actual thing, unless we develop something else. That, I feel like socialism was kind of like a step in that direction, trying to equal things out to make it more, sustainable.
What do you think's the best thing? What common people think? Do you think the answer is what most people out there would agree with, or some other answer? Do you trust let's say IQ can be divvied up into like 5 different categories. The top being 2%, and then below that a little higher percentage. The middle being 50%, which every time I check is around 100. And then there's a couple of categories below that, 70 being at the bottom. Would you agree with the 50%ers? Do you think that the most common ideas are, or the ones that give you an A in class, are the best to answer?
I'd have to say not always. I would say there's some time. I think the majority is usually going to sway whether they're right or wrong.
What can they do about that?
Yeah.
What can you do about something? That's like, imagine I told you you are in trouble if you don't have brown eyes and you've got blue eyes. You're categorized some unfair thing.
There's nothing you
like
can...
there are people that, depending on their race, are more susceptible to certain diseases. That's a reality. It's like a hard fact.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, can the solution come from the problem? Here's something. For example, how many poverty-stricken people do you know? How many like homeless people do you know?
Personally, I don't know anyone who's
You don't know
homeless.
any.
No.
But do you know a lot of people that are dissatisfied?
Yep.
So what's going on here? Why do you believe anything? Why would you believe me? Why would you believe a study? Why would you believe a stat? Why would you believe anything other than your direct experience of life? And if your direct experience of life is traumatic and brutal, like, what does that mean? Take it apart, because are there happy people? Have you ever met someone that seems happy that has like less things than you? Have you ever like been tempted to judge in that way? Meaning like you don't understand from where somebody derives their satisfaction, or you don't understand from where somebody's upset.
Yeah.
You ever seen somebody upset and you're like, you got so much going for you.
Yeah.
Or so what is that about? Are those ideas even yours, or are they just kind of floating around and they latch on to different things depending on the need? So I'm trying to take it a little bit deeper than this. What I'm saying is, what is your power in all this? Do you have, how much power do you actually have? Are you a skilled politician? Are you a skilled, charismatic person? Then you probably have a lot of power to go out there and like influence people. If you have that kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
If you don't, you don't. There are some people that are socially awkward. I just watched the movie The Big Short, and who knows, it might be a total fiction. I don't know. But the one guy that ended up taking the lion's share of everything was, in harmoniously a balanced way, the most socially awkward.
Yeah.
So he had time and the capacity for obsessing over money because he couldn't get along with anybody. Everybody, the whole movie's like just like weirded out by him, and he was right in the end. But in the end, there's kind of a monologue where he breaks it all down, and he said this chasing of money goes against a fundamental aspect of being. Like the acquisition of money and what you have to do to get it seems in contrast to this other thing that has to do with being. So there's rife with paradox in all this.
Yeah.
Do you have running water? Do you have food? You know what I mean? And why is something enough or not enough? I think oftentimes it's just born from other people's ideas that they put into your head. And what people want is not the truth. The thing I just told you, not a money-making rant. It isn't. It's not a compelling rant. But what does that have to do with anything? You know how many people come at you in one sense and they're cocky and high on the horse, and then the next time you see them, they're down. When they're cocky, they forget that they were humiliated. When they're humiliated, they forgot that they were cocky a moment ago. Over and over and over again. How is this excusable? How do we tolerate this other than the fact that we're that way too? And that's the only capacity for forgiveness we have, is that we're the same way that we judge others. There's no reason anything can't be anything. There's no reason why we couldn't accomplish universal basic income if that's the right answer. There's no reason we couldn't be some other thing if that's the right answer, other than people's incapacity to see things as they actually are.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that gets in the way of anything, is I don't want to see it the way it is. So I'm going to be swept away in a falsehood. That causes suffering, that causes discontent, that causes disorganization, that causes an incapacity to be effective in the world.
Yeah.
Causes all those things, just not seeing clearly.
A lot of these ideas, I think, they get floated out there in the early stages, and we sample them. I think there's even places in Canada where they actually like tried it in like a community to see how it would work. And I think that's how you get the ball rolling with these. They have to evolve over time. They have to get proven that, you know, they're actually sustainable, that they actually work before you because who knows what the consequences of something like universal basic income could be if you just launch it out there. Like all of these ideas that people, you know, have about how to make things more equal for everyone, to make things better. It may seem simple on paper, or, you know, to have the idea, but then when you put it into practice, it may not always work as we saw it.
Well, the technical rollout or the technical implementation of universal basic income, I won't touch on, because here's a question. You want to be in charge of organizing universal basic income? No, I don't either. That's not my wheelhouse. But all the stuff that I said previously is my wheelhouse, is what I think about, and is my craft. Is seeing through it. Is going, okay, before I get wrapped up in the technicalities of life or being proficient in some technical ability here, is the juice worth the squeeze? That matters because I have eyes and because I'm a conscious, aware person that can see people that say one thing and reflect something else.
Yeah.
Or, you know, people's... The outer perimeter of what somebody is more important to me than what they say is their core belief. It's like, well, it's not reflected. You show me what you believe in your actions. You show me what you believe in, what you do with your money that you gained, and what you do, where your attention goes. I can see where you're looking. You're not looking at me. You're looking at that. And that thing's stupid. That's how I decide what somebody is. You know? It's like, imagine you saw like an old rich guy or something and he's got deep frown lines. You know? He looks fucking miserable. Yeah. And he's trying to pay for happiness as hard as he can. He's trying to attain something, but it's obvious what he is. You know, fear might be important to an individual like this. You have to respect me because I've positioned myself that way. Well, is it really worth it? It doesn't seem to be yielding happiness. Right?
Yeah.
Can't you look around at what is actually the case without like painting over it with some story of what it should be because you trusted one particular opinion rather than your eyeballs?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it requires you to really focus sometimes.
Just know what your limits are. Know what you're willing to take up and what you're not willing to take up. What is honestly true. What people tell you is good, bad, or ugly versus what you truly think is good, bad, or ugly. That's what I would suggest to anybody, you know, because are any of us on the panel of whether or not this gets rolled out, universal basic income? Are we? We can't do anything about that.
Yeah. What
we can do is in our personal, individual lives, separate from politics. Yeah. I'm not even going to include voting because who the hell knows? How do you know your vote's worth anything? You know, especially if you're the type of person that believes government or powerful people have lie, you know, or advertising agencies or anybody else lie to kind of get what they want. Like if that's sort of stapled to the historical reality of capitalism. Yeah. So if you're being lied to by people that are proficient in that, why would you trust anything? The only thing you should trust is yourself and dollars to donuts, the reality of your actions and what the yield is of those things. That's it.
Well, we'll let you guys comment here. Let us know what you think about what the video had to say, what we had to say. Is this, you know, something worth pursuing? And, you know, I guess we'll leave it at that. Hopefully you liked the reaction. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone until next time, stay spiritual.